So I want to show you today an example of hoop weaving. So to start, I'm going to be using a t-shirt. I want to cut strips of the t-shirt. I want to make sure that the strips are like a tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the t-shirt and I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut long strips from the t-shirt. So when you get your strips done, they're going to look like this. They'll be a tube. From here, we're going to take our recycled t-shirt strips and we are going to grab our hula hoop and we are going to begin stretching our t-shirt tubes around our hula hoop tube, like so. I find it best to add one horizontal and one vertical, and then fill in the gaps from there. So I have an example of one that I've already finished with all my different t-shirt straps already on it. So from here, the next thing we want to do is we want to start weaving. Don't worry too much about this part in the middle because as we weave through, it's going to get tight and bunched and it's going to look perfect. So I've created some different bunches of string and I've gone ahead and I've wrapped them around a dart. And so I'm going to start by tying the end of my string onto the middle of my t-shirts. So for this part, you can either cast on, as I showed in an earlier video, or you can just tie it to the string, but make sure you use 2 knots. We want it to last a long time and be extra sturdy. Okay, so now I have my first string that I'm going to be using, my first color, tied to the center of the hula hoop. From here, I'm going to start weaving. I'm going to be going around each string. Once you get a few on there, you want to make sure to move those strings towards the center. That's going to make it nice and tight. So I'm taking both sides of the string together when I'm wrapping it around. So kind of turning it into one string, and that's also going to add a lot of tension and make it nice and sturdy and strong. So I've almost reached the end of my first color. So what I want to do is go ahead and tie on my second color. So for my second color, what I did was I took a lot of long strings and I braided them all together. Again, it's making the string a little thicker. It makes the weave go a little faster, and I really love the texture of a braid. You can check out my other tutorial on how to braid if you don't know how. And so I'm going to go ahead and connect these together. I always fold everything in half so I have this handy dandy little loop. So when I braid, I used 3 strings of yarn and then I tied a knot before I started my braid. That makes it really easy to tie this end of the new string onto the end of the old string. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a double knot in the end of my string, making sure it's nice and tight. Oh yeah, that's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to continue the weaving process in the exact same way I have been doing by making sure I'm going in a circle around each of my t-shirt bars. So I've reached the end of my second color. Again, this is a dart. All it is a piece of cardboard with a little slit cut in it. It's super helpful for tying your bundles of thread around, and it makes weaving a lot faster than trying to pull a really long string all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie on my next color. So I'm going to add one more color and then that's it, because I want to leave some room for wind to be able to get through. If we had a solid panel, it would be really hard. It would have a lot of resistance in the weather of Colorado. So I just want to make sure that there is a way for some air to pass through it. So I've reached the end, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to tie this on. I'm going to do a double knot. And then since this is the very end, I'm also going to divide these strings in half and then loop them a couple of times around this string. You can never have too many knots. So I do want to just do one final thing. And so I'm going to take this blue yarn and I'm going to tie it right at the base to where this connects to here. And I'm going to tie it in a knot, and then I'm going to tie it back around the hula hoop. Oh, the string broke. It was a little too thin. I think that we should go for a thicker string. So we're going to go for this grayish blue. This really reminded me of a sky. That's why I picked it and I really liked it. And since we're basing this on the sacred waters of Manatee Springs, I thought it was a perfect color. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to leave quite a bit of length on the end. And I'm going to first tie it around here. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie it around the hula hoop a couple of times. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this string and I'm just going to wrap these, adding a little bit of thickness, going back in towards the middle. You can just do like an inch or so, or you can go all the way to your weaving, but again, we want to leave space for the wind to get through. You could also do a side knot like I taught in one of my other tutorials. That would look really great going back in, and I might go back and do that. But for starters, I just want to get a little start on this process. So then I will go ahead and I will do that to all of the rest of my connecting pieces just to make sure, again, it's really attached to the hoop and our beautiful weaving in the middle. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope you have fun creating your water circle.